Chris Appleton, welcome to Live from Bed.
Hello. I thought we were going to be in bed.
I know,
That's the bed.
We really should have been.
This is kind of cozy like a bed.
So congratulations on your new book.
Thank you so much.
Are you excited, nervous, a mixture? How do you feel about it coming out?
Yeah, I mean, I feel really ready. I mean, it's been, happening for a while. So I'm excited for people to, get their hands on something which I genuinely believe is going to make a big difference to a lot of people. I think, identity is such a big part of who we are. And even the people that play it down and go, I don't really care about the way I look, I don't get, well, you're still saying something with that.
100%.
You're still saying something with that. And if you think about any identity like Anna Wintour with the bob, or, Lady Gaga, platinum hair, or Marilyn Monroe, platinum hair, or, J-Lo with the golden, money pieces.
Yep.
And, it's kind of an identity, which I think a lot of people kind of know, but I don't think they know maybe the possibilities that are available with hair.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, the book isn't really so much about the visual.
Right.
There is a guide into finding what works for you, etc.,
Exactly,
which is
but
the
there's
most
such a
common
deeper
question.
message.
Common asked questions. It really is like sitting into my chair. But the deeper thing and the bigger picture is more about the internal kind of process of that, and how so many of us have these limitations on the way we look. And it usually comes from being told somewhere along the line that we should look a certain way, we should act a certain way, we should dress a certain way, we should date certain people, we should, work in certain industries. And the book really is about coming back to yourself and redefining who you are at any age and discovering what that is. Because sometimes we don't even know. We're like, well, I don't know. I've just always been told that I suit bangs, or I've always been told that, I should work in finance, or, I was always told that I should marry a, successful, whatever it is, and it's all those things, when you break them down, people don't really know where they've come from.
Right.
And I think the book gives people the realization that you can change and you can make improvements. And it's for anyone that's ever looked in the mirror and thought, is this enough? Is this, how did I get here? Like, a lot of people don't even know, because we look in the mirror like 10 to 15 times a day. Not many people actually stop and actually look.
Yeah. Now we look in our phones. Yeah.
Totally. And I think the hairdresser's chair is probably that one time that you stop and you look. And it's usually a negative thing, because you have that hater inside your head where it's like, oh, this lighting bad? I look old. I look a bit tired today. Like, this eye, is one of my eyes smaller than the other? Oh my God, I didn't realize my arm goes like that. Like my hair, like we kind of pull ourselves apart. But there's a process of sitting in the chair where something happens, and they say that your hairstylist is your therapist, and there's some truth in that.
100%. Oh my God. The stuff you must have heard over the,
Oh
the
my
past
God,
30
yeah.
years, and like what you've
Insane.
witnessed, and the surrendering, the vulnerability, like all of that. But it's such an important message from you, because you have lived it. You've lived the transformation, right?
100%.
And was it hard for you? Like, you went from, you have a job that's so behind the scenes, right? And like making women and men feel and look beautiful and supporting them in their transformation and journey. What ultimately led to you saying, like, okay, it's time for me to tell my story?
I think there's been a very sort of polished version of me put out there. On social media. People assume, they know me from maybe the people I work with.
Right.
If you look at my Instagram, it looks, I guess, glamorous, working with, famous people, or traveling, and, we post the best version of ourselves. And I think it was time for me to sort of peel back the curtain and show people the, really vulnerable sides of me, my life, the cost of, having some success, or behind the scenes of working in the entertainment industry, and really showing like I've been, anxious so much of my life. I've been so unsure of myself, and there's so much more than, I guess, that, visual that people have of you. And I think it's really important to pull that back. And I think why the book is so vulnerable and why it is so raw is I felt like, how can I expect people to look at themselves in the mirror if I'm not doing the same?
Right.
And it encourages people and takes people through the journey of being able to do that.
Yeah. No, I love it. So I love how you say you don't have to lie in the bed you've made forever. What did your life look like right before everything changed?
I think I was really defined by my roots. I was, straight. I had, a job. I was sort of trying to do and live the life that I was told to live, or the life that seemed to not raise eyebrows or question, anyone's, opinions. It was what I believe was the right thing, or like I say, at least told so. Because I think from a very young age, I was kind of bullied for
Mm,
doing hair. People assumed I was just gay because,
right.
again, hairstylists probably were like, that's what people knew.
Totally.
Like, oh, if you're a hairstylist and you're a male, you must be gay.
Yep.
Otherwise it's a girl's job. And this is a long time ago, and things have changed a lot since then. But at the time, I was told like that was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to do that. And I was also dyslexic at school, so I was
Mm-hmm.
somewhat sort of told repeatedly that I was stupid because I didn't learn the way the other kids learn. So I very quickly kind of abandoned myself. I didn't really want to be that version. I didn't want to be me. I hadn't really had time to discover it. I didn't know I was dyslexic. I found that out later. I also, didn't know I was gay, and
Yeah.
but I definitely didn't want to. It's like if someone tells you, putting your hand in fire is dangerous, you kind of don't do it. So I think
It was never an
coming,
option.
no. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that prior to sort of coming home to myself, I abandoned myself, and I think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people abandon themselves due to shame, fear.
Yeah.
Shame and fear are really powerful, and they can really eat away at your soul. And part of coming back to myself was just seeing that little kid again, like that I think the age that I really abandoned myself and left myself, coming back to that and seeing him, but maybe not talking in that voice that we have, that we can be so harsh with ourselves, where you look in the mirror and you say, oh, I look old, or come on, like, don't be a loser, or you're not good
Mm-hmm.
enough. That voice is kind of always there. But I would never speak to my children like that. I'd never speak
Right.
to anyone else like that. I'd never speak to my younger self like that, because he needed to hear that, like, it was going to be okay. And,
Yeah.
I'm going to, it might feel like I'm different now, but that'll be your superpower one day,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes we don't get to hear those things as kids. It doesn't mean I had bad parenting. It's just that my parents come from circumstances that they couldn't
Totally.
control, and
They're
they
a
did the
product of
best they
their.
could. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
definitely.
Of
But
course.
we've evolved a lot as humans over the last 15, 20 years of, like, you know understanding that past traumas get passed on.
Yeah.
They had a really traumatic childhood, so I think there was a lot of healing myself, which, once I'd figured that out and I kind of got aligned externally and internally, that's when the real superpower happens. And I think
Yeah.
everyone deserves to have that power.
a hundred
So if
percent.
I can help one person have that, then it's worth doing.
Yeah, it's like setting someone else free, you
Totally.
know.
Yeah.
So you were with a woman, like
Hmm.
not married, but with a woman, and you had two kids.
Yeah.
So when you'd hear mumblings or grumblings about people saying, "Oh, maybe you're gay," or having these assumptions about you, how did you react internally? Did you know like that you were not lying? Did you know that maybe rang true and just avoided it? Like what was that process for you internally?
Well, no, because I mean, when I was a kid at school, they would say that when I did
Mm-hmm.
hair, but then I know I always had a
Yeah.
girlfriend. It wasn't really questioned again until I was like, I was really bullied at school during that time.
Right.
School years were tough.
Yeah.
Anyone that's a little different. I mean, it wasn't just like a little bullying. They'd spit on you, like
Wow.
throw, like punch you in the back of the head when you weren't looking, like jump you when you kind of left school. It was
Right.
brutal. Like we had to call the police, and
Jesus.
yeah, it was intense. And I never really understood what I'd done wrong. But it's just different. I just wasn't like playing football every day. Think I still played football, but like still I did hair, so that made me
Yeah.
gay and stupid. It was also
Mm-hmm.
called stupid. So I never really found peace. Hair was the first time that I think that I did something that I felt good at. So I
Okay.
remember feeling like I'm going to be the best at this. I'm going to
Yeah.
show everyone, because maybe then I'll be enough. Maybe if I'm the best at it, as enough. And then when I got really good at it, and when I had some success,
Mm-hmm.
I realized, well, I still don't feel enough. But because really, and that's, I think, in understanding you abandon yourself and like coming back to yourself, because you always were enough. It's
Right.
just about, I think when you leave yourself and when you do ignore yourself, when you do, you're not aligned, something just always feels off. And it's not until you do get aligned with yourself, it's really life changing. It
Yeah.
really changes everything. It changes your relationships. It changes, you know, jobs you choose, friendships,
Yeah.
financial situations. And I'm not saying that, like, everything changes overnight. It takes a long time to make change. It's
Right.
like going to the gym and saying, I want to be skinny. And like, going to the gym twice. You're like, why am I not skinny? It takes
Yeah.
time. It
Yeah.
takes, repetitive behavior to get to a better
Right.
place. So now I still have that hater in my head. It just doesn't last as long. It's not as loud. And I
Yeah.
can come back to myself. I can be like, I'm doing that thing I do. And I can come
Right.
back to myself. And
Right.
that's kind of, some of the gifts in the book, which is enabling people to not necessarily delete their roots or delete their past or
Mm-hmm.
delete things they're ashamed of, but to actually like accept them and be in them and go right through them and come out on the other side, to a better
Totally.
place where you can be like, yeah, that was a version of me and I've evolved since then.
Right. So was it like, you talk about like the inner voice that knows, the stuff that you try to outrun that inner voice often.
Yeah.
And so when you were, in relationships with women, was it just a voice you tried to quiet? How did you kind of run
No,
away
I
from
just
that?
didn't have one.
Yeah, you
I
just were
didn't have a
like,
voice.
oh,
It was just like
interesting.
I just was doing what I thought I
Yeah.
knew. I'd only ever experienced that, so I didn't know
Right.
anything different.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was like 26, and I guess you can avoid yourself and like I guess brainwash yourself to an extent. Like
Totally.
from a very young age, I was told it's wrong. I was told. I remember at one point my mom sitting me down, me and my brother, and she talked about gay men. And this is all they knew at the time.
Yeah,
I
of
remember Princess
course.
Diana around the time shaking men's hands that were gay that had HIV and she didn't wear
Mm-hmm.
gloves. It was like headlines because people thought they could just catch it like that. It was like
Totally.
there wasn't a lot of as much knowledge.
Yeah.
And, like gay men, there was like, it wasn't a social thing. It was like gay men went to a certain pub in the town, but it
Right.
was like the gay pub, and it
Yeah.
was like extreme versions of gay or stereotyped, to me of like what being gay was. I didn't have any role models of
Mhm.
anyone different. I don't know. There wasn't much freedom or choice. It was
Yeah.
kind of just something that was a no, and
Right.
so I didn't really think about it until I was at the age of 26. Mine and Kate's relationship broke down, and I sort of was going out a lot more, and having different experiences. And then I guess once that kind of happened, I was like, oh.
Mm.
And then I thought, oh, I can. This is just a phase,
Mm-hmm.
This is like I've always been around gay people because of the hairdressing. Like there was always,
Totally.
I was kind of not afraid. I was just really drunk. Because alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh my god, I was so drunk last night. It was crazy. The guy tried to kiss me, like whatever.
Yeah.
But then I remember became friends, and then we were talking a lot. We didn't even live in the same country, but we would talk, and that kind of like slowly led me to think like, oh wow, I really like this guy, and you know, having a conversation around that. And then the real scary thing was as we built this friendship, and I guess I was trying to build maybe confidence
Mm-hmm.
in it. Um, I remember him telling me on the phone, he said, I need to talk to you. We'd been speaking for a few months and we just speak daily. It was like, there was just like a friendship, but I liked speaking to him. I kind of I'd never had a gay friend
Yeah.
before. Um, and I guess a part of me was sort of trying to discover what that felt like.
Totally.
And there hadn't been any sexual experiences, but I remember one day he said to me, I need to talk to you about something. And I knew what he was going to say. It was the weirdest thing. And he said, he told me he was HIV positive. And I remember
Mm.
thinking, oh, fuck, that's right. I remember being told that as a kid. I remember being told very distinctly that there's this thing called being gay, and
Right.
these gay men can get this HIV and it kills you. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is the big sign. Like,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely no. So even when I went to sort of explore it, I again just completely was like, oh no, no, it's not for me. I know that's not. I
Totally.
was just completely terrified of that. So I didn't even engage in it. It's not as though I was watching gay porn or anything
Yeah.
behind the scenes. I wasn't like secretly meeting up with people. I just didn't embrace it. I thought I was good. I thought I had it all figured out
Yeah.
until I didn't, and then I just couldn't. But then once I started, I couldn't unwind it.
Of course.
So like it was really sad. Like we were gonna. He wanted to come over and meet me and talk to me, and I just was like, no, I can't, engage in any of that, and I didn't. And I thought I'd be okay then, but I think once I'd opened Pandora's box and like I kind of was discovering that, it was
Right.
kind of like you do it again, and I met someone else, and then slowly I was like, God, this is a real thing. And then everyone, once I told people, were like, well, you always knew.
Mm.
And I was like, I didn't.
Totally.
People
That's a
still say to that, well, you always knew. And I was
yeah.
like, I really didn't. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if it was brainwashing or what. I think it was just fear of being different and not being socially accepted. I
Yeah.
just focused my brain and my heart and soul into being great at what I do and being the best at what I do. It,
Yeah.
not being gay, not being dumb, not being, poor, not being
Mm-hmm.
enough, and I just went full force ahead. I mean, I
Right.
got a job at 13. I qualified when I was 16. I was, I had a house and mortgage by the age of 19. I just was
Wow.
like, boom, I was just focused. It
That's
wasn't as though I was
awesome.
like trying to fight this
Right.
thing. I wasn't conscious of it
Right.
until I guess I was. And then when
Yeah.
I was, it was just as confusing for me as it was everyone else.
Right.
And that discovery of healing was hard. It was hard,
Oh,
and
I
it was
can
kind of
imagine.
most brutal work I've ever done, but the best work I've ever done for
Yeah.
sure.
So how old were you when like you sort of started to open that door, or when
I
you
was
had
like
the
26, nearly
okay,
27.
which is a hard time in life anyway, when you're
It
just
was
like so
really, really, I mean, the darkest years of my life, for
right,
sure, without doubt. I couldn't
right.
have hated myself anymore. I couldn't have
Oh.
it didn't matter what anyone else said. I hated myself more. I had preconceived ideas of myself and who I was, and the shame that I carried was like
Hmm.
insane,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't be happy in something if I'm ruining other people's life. And it was
Right.
like self-sabotage, and yeah, it was horrible.
So you were still in your relationship with Kate,
No,
and then
it ended. I mean,
okay.
we ended that, and Kate knew, and we were trying to discover what our relationship looked like and what our friendship looked like after that, and the
Mm-hmm.
kids, and that was always the priority, was the kids.
Right.
But then telling them was like the darkest night of my life. It was
Oh.
horrendous because I could handle to an extent other people.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy, and I felt heller amount of shame. I couldn't really handle telling the kids. I couldn't say it. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't say the words "I'm gay." I just couldn't. I couldn't say it. And so, their mother, the, my mother-in-law said it, and I just remember feeling like I've ruined their lives, and I brought all of this
Oh.
shame on them, and everything that happened to me at school, being bullied, being spat on, they're gonna get that. They have a gay dad, like that's not gonna be okay. That's not normal. Like it's not
Oh.
what everyone else has.
Yeah.
And I generally believe that like it'd be better for me not to be there than to. It'd be better for them to have a dad that was dead than a dad that was gay.
Oh.
That's how it felt,
Right.
and yeah, that was a real low point.
Wow.
And I think opening up to that in the book was something I didn't think I'd ever tell anyone that.
Right.
It was like a secret. It was this big dark secret.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have them to an extent. And we all have these things that we kind of block out. We kind of delete the memory. But if you do the work and you look into it hard enough, you remember those times. And I think me working through that, and I don't think I'd have got to where I've got now. I don't think I would have moved to America. I don't think I'd have had my career. I don't
Yeah.
think I'd have the relationship I have with my kids. I think it could have been a very different ending.
For sure.
Unfortunately, it wasn't. So I think what I wanted to do with the book was try and help other people that struggled,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's identity or, like I say, being in a relationship they're unhappy in, or financial situation, or just the way they look. A lot of it is from what we've been told, and that's why the
Right.
book's called Your Roots Don't Define You, because quite often our roots do define us.
Right.
They do define us as a kid. These things you hear and see.
Mm-hmm. I
Um,
can't do this because I came from this. I can't.
Totally,
Yeah.
yeah. Or even just the way you spend your money,
Yep.
or like I say, the way your dynamic of your relationship. Once you see it, once you see these patterns, you're like, I can
Absolutely.
change it. I've just been on auto my whole time, but I can take it into manual, and I can
Yeah.
control my life. I
Yeah.
can take control of that. I can be in the driver's seat. I don't have to be in the passenger seat
Right.
because I'm grown up now. And back then I was a kid, I was in the passenger seat, but now I
Yeah.
can make my own decisions.
Yeah.
And the book is basically kind of a guide into doing that.
Wow. I mean, that's so profound and powerful. How old were your kids when you told them?
6 and 8.
6 and 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how old are they?
21 and 23.
Okay. So
Full
is there,
adults.
that's amazing. So
Yeah, and
is,
they've grown. So I'm so proud of them and their involvement and development, because they had to go through the process they went through to
yeah.
get to where they've got. And, they moved to America. That's feel like my greatest achievement as a dad, is bringing them
Hmm.
out here to experience more, experience something different.
Yeah.
And it was always a choice, but to see them grow and evolve into, the young adults they are now is my proudest, achievement.
Right. Is there something that they remember about that night that you told them that you've revisited now that they're adults that you like, because as a
I think they
parent,
was
you
just
just,
confused. I think there was
yeah.
just confusion of like to see. I was so broken. It
Right.
really broke me.
Oh,
It broke me to hurt them or feel like I was hurting them, or
right.
bring something that for me at the time. I don't feel this way now, but at the time it felt like it was like a cancer that I just couldn't get rid of, and I
Mm-hmm.
just was trying to cut it out. If I could have done anything, I would have chopped my arm off if I had
Right.
to, like to get rid of it.
Right.
I didn't want to be any. I wanted just to be their dad, and I was like, I'm never going to be able to be the same again.
Yeah.
Um, but again, I think being able to take that darkness and get to a better place from it
Mm-hmm.
took a lot of work. And like I say, the work can be brutal. It's not an overnight thing. But now I think rather than just deleting my past, I fully embrace it, and I've used every experience that I've been through to get to a better place.
Yeah.
And like I said, now I still have those thoughts and feelings sometimes. We all have those voices. I just know how to silence it and come back to
Right.
myself and recenter myself. I don't go back to that 13-year-old kid, or that 6-year-old kid. I remember how I was at the window as a 6-year-old, feeling like not enough and not
Mm,
quite like my brothers or my sisters. I didn't really learn like them either. I just felt odd. I was
yeah.
the middle kid. I'm one of five. Life was always crazy.
Yeah.
And you can kind of learn to comfort yourself.
Right.
And that's really like powerful. Sounds bullshit because I remember when I first did this, I remember like going into this session. I had a therapy session, and I love therapy. I think it's great.
Me too.
Yeah, let's go therapy. But like, I remember my therapist, like, I was like, I keep getting myself into these situations and I don't like the ending. I keep getting myself
Mm,
into the same pattern, and I can see a pattern of this thing I'm doing. And then the ending is always the same. And I want to break this cycle. Why am I attracted to this? Like, I need to stop.
yeah.
I felt like it was like alcohol, and I knew I had a problem and I wanted to like stop. But I didn't know how. I kept doing it. I kept getting back into it. I'm like, but it tastes so good, and I love the way it makes me feel. But so I've got to change this. I only knew this route. I only knew this pattern. I only knew how to go into this and end up there. So to break it down and really stop the pattern, you have to really look at where it comes from. And it came from some of the things as a kid that I believed and felt. And I remember going
Yeah.
back to that little kid at the window, and like, when he said, what do you think he wanted to hear? And I was like, oh, actually probably just that it was going to be okay. And like maybe like one day that, your difference now will be your superpower
Yeah.
in years to come. And you'll be grateful that you're different. But, at the time I was shamed into it being a bad thing. But when you can kind of like silence that voice in your head that always speaks so negatively to yourself, and be kinder to yourself, because I'd never speak to anyone else like that. It's really powerful, how you can, you know, it just makes you like present and in your
Yeah.
body, and you can feel, your hands on the chair and your feet on the floor. And it's like, so often with like social media and life, busy the way it is, we're always somewhere else, and
It's so
sometimes things will
easy.
happen and you're like, did it? And you're not
Yeah.
even aware.
No, it's
Someone say,
so easy
you
to
approved this, and you're
disassociate.
like, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I've even seen that. You've
Yeah.
met someone, they're like, do you remember me? You're like, no idea.
Right.
Because you're somewhere else in your head. You're worried about this, or you're worried
Hmm.
about that, like, so I think to be able to ground yourself and bring yourself back is really powerful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, it like, unfortunately, it kind of takes you being brave enough to completely break down, break your life down and see where all the holes and
I think my
cracks.
point was like where you were going is like, when did you decide? I think the thing is, I didn't decide. It's
Yeah.
just I couldn't like,
You couldn't outrun it
I
anymore.
couldn't run it anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was
Yeah.
until I was like, oh, I think I've just like, from trauma, like completely blocked this out,
Right.
like it wasn't even there. And then you have to discover it. It's like you've been avoiding mirrors your whole life.
Yeah.
And I got really good at mirrors. Like I made a career out of it, making other people look in the mirror, see
Yeah.
themselves, bring out the best version of themselves. I just didn't look at myself.
Hmm.
And then when someone showed me the mirror and you see yourself, you're like, oh. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Well,
So
that's,
even my
yeah.
circumstance, like I saw myself, and then I had that situation where he said that, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna be good. I don't want to engage in this. But then
Right.
I just kept seeing myself. It's like you just have
Totally.
to the point where I was like, okay, I need to take a long hard look.
But how poetic in the profession that you're in. Like, we've all been sitting in the hairstylist chair and
Yeah,
they're looking at you through the mirror, like
I
they're not
know,
looking at themselves. They're looking at you and the work that they've just done and what they've created. And so it is, I can see how it would be easy to avoid yourself in that.
100%. Yeah.
So, what part of your old self was the hardest to walk away from? What part did you think, like, oh, I'm going to miss that? Oh, I'm going to, I'm so scared to leave that behind?
I think just the family dynamic of,
Yeah.
me, Kate, who is the mother of my kids. We'd been together for, 9, nearly 10 years. And the kids, just having our dynamic, I was
Yeah.
so terrified that was never going to be the same again.
Hmm.
And the truth of the matter is it's evolved into something beautiful. And, we'll always be the solid family that we are. We're going to spend Christmas together again this
Oh,
year.
that's
And
nice.
it's possible. It's just different,
Yeah.
And it's really funny because there was like situations where people looked like they had it all together, other
Mm-hmm.
family members that look
Yeah.
like, oh, they're the,
They're
masculine
perfect. Yeah.
man, the perfect wife, the kids do football, this, and then like your own life, you realize these things like, oh, behind the scenes, it wasn't quite, like it's really
100%.
interesting. Like no one really has it all together all the
Yeah.
time, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But there just needs to be more conversations around that,
100%.
and more acceptance. And like I say, what I know the reader's going to get from the book is finding that voice and realizing that you can transform your life, and create your comeback at any age. There
Mm-hmm.
really is no timestamp on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just talking about your visual. It's not just about how you look or if you want a new hairstyle. Yes, that's in there, but it's also how to internally carry that and make a difference to
Yeah.
how you feel on the inside. Because when the alignment comes in, I think is the real power. When you're aligned visually on the outside. I mean, I've looked the best I've ever looked in my life, and then been miserable as fuck and gone home and cried.
Yeah.
It's like because when I wasn't sort of aligned on the inside, and when I
Yeah.
hadn't dealt with my issues in the past, um, things were just off.
Right.
So I think it's not just about, oh, having a great haircut and you're going to be good. You got to
Yeah.
do a little bit more work than that.
Yeah. And we have like these relationships, these family dynamics, our friendships, whatever. We're so afraid of changing or redefining ourselves because we're afraid of people not loving us anymore or people
Yeah.
being angry with us. And often it's true. Sometimes people do want to remember the version of you they had most power over,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
unfortunately.
totally, totally. There
So
is that element as well.
yeah, so like that's so hard to like fight that current and try to change. Is there anyone you lost in this process or that couldn't accept you
Yeah,
changing? Yeah.
yeah.
And how did you deal with that?
Well, the person I lost was myself.
Yeah.
I abandoned myself. I
Right.
abandoned Chris. I became a version of what I thought society and everyone else wanted.
Yeah.
Um, and I think coming back to myself, because and then I got myself into relationships that I shouldn't have been in. I got myself into dynamics that weren't healthy for me, and I just accepted it. I just kind
Right.
of just went with it because I was like, oh, it's okay. I can help. It's kind of what I did as a job. I help people. I help people look better. I
Mhm.
help people fix things. It's kind of what you do as a hairstylist, and doing that in relationships, I realized, oh, it's actually not my place. I don't need to fix other
Mm.
people. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Again, once you do come back to yourself, and I'm like, no, I know what I want, and I have
Yeah.
boundaries, and that's really important to me. But when you've not done the work, it does affect so much. You know how many people I meet, and I'm like, how's your partner? And they're like, oh, fine, it's fine,
Yeah.
it's fine, and it's like, fine is such a shit word, it's like
Yeah.
just so like, you're sitting in the chair and some hairstylist cuts all your hair off. What do you think? Oh,
Mhm.
it's fine. Thank you. It's fine.
Right.
You go home and you have a breakdown. Fine is just such a like,
Right.
how are you feeling today? And, you've literally just been told your grandma died. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. It's just one of those kind of facades that we put up, and it's really
Totally.
like not like real, I think. And I think for anyone that just feels like something is fine, and the
Mhm.
book is going to really help you, I guess, really see what is actually happening.
Yeah.
And then maybe things aren't fine, and that's all right. It's all
Yeah.
right that it's not fine. But let's
Yeah.
start somewhere. Let's start with the beginning of like
Right.
what that looks like and how to get to a better place of where you want to be and where you'd hope to be or where you aspire to be, but maybe thought you never could. Whether
Mhm.
it's a better job or a financial situation or, relationship or even just, a new hairstyle.
Right, right. So, like once you went through this transformation or once you accepted this truth about yourself, you come out to your friends and family. I think people think, oh, that's the end of the story. And it's absolutely not. Then you're like, okay, how do I wear this new skin? How do I, like, what kind of people do I love, and who do I want to be in a relationship with? And we, in the world got to watch you fall in love again and get married.
Hmm.
What did you learn from that experience, like doing that publicly? Was that triggering for you based on what you'd been through? And what are you still learning about love and relationships?
I mean, I think for me, every relationship I've ever been in has been a learning lesson.
Yeah.
And I think relationships are complicated. People are messy.
Yep.
People bring their old trauma into relationships. Um, and I think in a lot of the relationships I've been in, I've really realized that like love just isn't enough, and love
Mm,
doesn't fix everything, and
right.
it doesn't fix people,
Right.
And in my probably toxic trait has been. Um, wanting to fix people or thinking,
Mm-hmm.
oh, love is enough. Love will fix things.
Yeah.
Love's enough. Because I think as a kid, that's what I saw. I mean, my mom and dad both come from really traumatic
Mm-hmm.
backgrounds. And they endured things that, like, my mom's mom and dad got murdered when she was 10. My
Wow.
dad got put in a home when he was 5. They kind of survived.
Right.
And then they survived with each other. They had their hard times, but they stuck together because it was the family. And,
Mm-hmm.
I always saw my mom kind of take it on and, you
Yeah.
know, stay together for the family because that meant the
That
world to
generation
her.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But now things have changed and it's like, no, it's okay. You can have boundaries.
Right.
You can have your own standards. And I think I probably perceived love as a kid by doing, like, I'd do my mum's hair, make her feel glamorous. I wanted to bring her something. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow, you get to make people feel something. And I felt love then. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, going into a career that was really useful, but in relationships, that wasn't, because you kind of give in too
Mm-hmm.
much. And, relationships are two people and it's two dynamics. And,
Right.
but like I say, all the things I've been in, all my relationships, friendships, like, just because maybe they're not around anymore doesn't mean it wasn't love. It doesn't
Yeah. a
mean that,
hundred
just because
percent.
there's not a happy ending didn't mean it didn't mean something.
Yeah.
But I think some people come in your life for a season and some come in for longer. But I think as long as you learn, I've always tried to learn from every experience I've been in and evolve,
Yeah.
and grow. And I think that's the fun thing of life.
Mm-hmm.
You should always be learning and evolving and growing. And I think I've learned self-love was probably the thing that was missing all along.
Yeah. Do you think your next relationships you'll keep more private, or like, was that scary?
I mean, I just think I guess working with some of the people that I work with, posting on social media, having a
Right.
presence, and then you're on the TV shows and you're
Yeah.
in the back, and people become invested in you. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of first realized that when I got a call from JLo's team, and I just lived in the UK. I lived in
Right.
Leicester, and I remember traveling to London, doing my thing. I wasn't a celebrity hairstylist,
Yeah.
and JLo's team reached out to me, and I'm like, how does JLo know who I am? I still have that.
Right.
The other week, I got a call from Madonna's team, and they said, "Oh, Madonna, would love to work for you with this video." And I actually, it didn't happen. I think the dates got moved. But even so, I remember saying to Madonna, I was like, "How does Madonna know who I am?" And she's like, "Well, you're
Mm-hmm.
Chris Appleton." And I'm like, "Huh, yeah, Chris Appleton." I
Yeah.
kind of think, what? Like, I
Yeah.
just do hair. Like, I just generally love making people look and feel their best. I love the
Right.
buzz and the thrill of it all.
Right.
So there is an element where you forget the
Yeah.
world is sometimes watching, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
You're a brand and
oh,
you're a, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there's always this double-edged sword where, when I'm at work, I'm very, like, professional. I'm in the
Yeah.
zone. I'm there to provide a service, and I'm really grateful to work with the people I work with because, there is a friendship there. And
Of
there's,
course.
working with these amazing people, I'm so inspired by them and so thankful for every opportunity they've
Yeah.
given me. But I think the whole public thing of, people have an opinion on you on social media, and sometimes you'll post things and people have,
Mm-hmm.
opinions on the way you look, or people will say to me like, your hair brown is not cute, you need to be blonde, or
Right.
when
Right.
you're blonde you look like a twink, or like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my god, people really go out there, or like, you're wearing that looks
Right.
desperate, and I'm like, oh, okay, and I kind of laugh at it, but because you forget that it's
Right.
real. Like, you see these numbers and the likes, but it almost becomes like a lotto machine where, you're pulling it and you get the numbers, you're trying to, like, oh, this one did good, it's
It's
like a little bit of
crazy.
like adrenaline hit.
Yeah.
And so when I see things or comments or, good or bad or whatever it is, I kind of just embrace it because, you put yourself out there,
Yeah.
and people are allowed to have an opinion. And I hope they do. I think it's healthy to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I need to defend myself because I feel like I know who I am,
Yeah.
and I'm good with that,
But
and I
it
think
is
that's a really good
weird.
thing.
Yeah. It is like, and now it's not enough to do your profession. Like, you have to be on social media, you have to be promoting certain things, you have to, so it's weird because I'm sure there are times where you're just like, I just want to do hair, or like, I don't want to have this conversation today, whether it's an hour, a minute, whatever.
I think it's like just part of it. I think it's just the
Yeah.
world we live in these days. Like, I'm ticking on TikTok and like one thing starts off and I'm like, remember the Blake Lively thing? And they just do, everyone gets like obsessed with it. It becomes,
Right.
it gets like momentum, and then everyone, I
Right.
met Blake once, I met Justin once,
Yeah.
or like, just different trends. There was a situation Hair by Chrissy recently. Did you see that with
Yes.
someone in
Oh my
extensions? And
God.
I went to her once back in 1976, and I'm like, huh? Like,
Yeah.
okay. Like,
Yeah.
people want to express themselves, and I don't know. It's okay. Like I think
Yeah.
it's great that people feel free. I mean, sometimes I think it's valid. Sometimes I'm like, okay, is this a stretch? But it's okay
Right.
still, And then sometimes you click on the user and it's like no followers
Right.
and no
No
posts, and I'm like,
profile picture. Yeah. A hundred
interesting,
percent. Yeah, but like when you see like your ex is still out there talking about the relationship, are you ever like, okay, like can we just let this go?
Uh, I think I'm really happy at the place I'm at,
Yeah.
and I think, look, there's, I'm sure there's, there's people that friends or work colleagues that probably talk. But I mean, there's always going to be someone saying something
Of
about you, and
course.
I don't know. I just think, for me, I'm at a point in my life now where I'm really happy where I'm at.
Yeah.
I feel really grounded. I feel really grateful for the people I love. I have a beautiful family, which I've never felt more grateful. I keep having these really overwhelming moments where I'm like, I am so grateful for the people I've got in my life. I love so much. I'm so proud of my kids, like overwhelmingly proud, like especially like recently to see them grow. Like I remember my daughter when she moved to LA, she couldn't look someone like the server in the eye. Take her to a nice restaurant and she couldn't look them in the eye. Like we didn't
Yeah.
really have nice restaurants in the UK and we don't come from money or anything.
Right.
It's really working class. And I keep thinking of Victoria Beckham when David
I
Beckham's
know.
like, be honest.
Yeah.
But seriously,
Yeah.
like we had no food in the cupboards when I was a kid. Like we
Right.
had no food
Right.
cupboard and we all shared one room. It was 5 kids. It was real,
Yeah.
We didn't have luxury of. I remember feeling hungry throughout my childhood,
Yeah.
there wasn't food. And my kids, I mean, we worked hard, but again, I worked in a hair salon and I got £1 an hour. I think I earned £10 a
Wow.
day. It doesn't go very far,
Right.
but to get to a point where I could bring my kids to America and things started to take off for me, and I wanted them to see there was a bit more to
Yeah.
life, more opportunities. You don't have to just work at the grocery store and get married and have a kid. You can explore, you can travel, you can see different cultures, you can see that different. You don't have to just be a 2.4 children,
Mm-hmm.
a straight dad and a happy mom that does sports day, and you
Mm-hmm.
be you can come out here and live and explain
Yeah.
and see, and if you don't like it, you can go back. And they came, and like I say, my daughter like would go to a restaurant and she couldn't look the waiter in the eye, and I was like, oh my god, like they, wanted them to live and explore. And now, like, to see the way that, like, my daughter's so eloquent and she talks to me sometimes about things, and I'm like, oh my god, like, I don't even know. Like my son will be telling me, hey dad, I really think you should do this investment here. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, yeah, absolutely. They've
Yeah.
just grown into just like amazing people, and it's my greatest joy.
Oh,
So I think everything else is just noise.
a
Like
hundred
I'm
percent.
really like my inner circle, I feel really at peace with.
Yeah, that's incredible. But I think
Yeah.
there's going to be some people listening, right, who um are in this kind of transitional time, or have been outrunning a truth about themselves. And
Uh-huh.
I can understand that there would be some confusion, right? Like if you were gay, or or anything really, where you're like, well, maybe I'm not, or maybe I'm bi, or maybe it's just
Right.
a dream, or maybe it was just a phase. Or how did, like, what's your advice to people to kind of pushing that all out of the way, and like honing in on your truth and being like, oh no, like this is deep within me? Was it a gut feeling? Was it like something you felt every day? Like how did you finally say like, no, 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 that's the truth?
No, I think it's small
Yeah.
and quiet, and I think
Mm,
it grows.
yeah.
I think change is really slow,
Yeah.
and change is really hard,
Yeah.
and I think it's really scary. And
Hmm.
most of the time, fear paralyzes us into not making moves because
Right.
we're scared to unsettle. Especially if you've got like people around you that you feel comfortable with,
Yeah.
and you're in a comfortable place in your life. You don't want to mess that up.
No.
No one wants to do extra work, But it's kind of like I've lived in this house for a while, and this one bedroom house has really served me, but now I've grown and I'm
Hmm.
a bit older and I have a few pets and I have a kid, and I'm ready to move on to something bigger. And when you
Yeah.
first get there, it feels very big and overwhelming, but then I don't know, you quickly grow into that space. And I think that's the thing with growth is like, you just need to have the allowance to make a change, like to
Yeah.
allow yourself to feel uncertain, to
Hmm.
feel unsure. That's part
Yeah.
of it. You're not going to have it all figured out, but it's really just about looking in the mirror and knowing you want to change.
Yeah. Taking
And
that
it's not
first
just looking
step.
in the mirror like, oh, I want to change my bangs. It's looking as like, am I happy with it? Am I happy with this?
Right.
Is this relationship it? Is this really what I wanted to be? Am I happy what it turned into? Or
Right.
is this job really, I really thought I was going to grow. I was promised more and I'm just stuck here. I've been here for the last 10 years and
Yeah.
well, I'm too old now for a change. It's just recognizing, no, you're not. Like
Mhm.
it's time to start. And you're never too late because
Yeah.
until stop breathing, that's the time it's over. But
Yeah.
until then, you got a life to live. And I think people need to realize that that can happen at any stage, and it's a process. But the only way you're going to get there is start the process. And it's not as though there's a a particular thing that happens where it's like this light bulb moment.
Exactly.
It's just slow, but you start to know. I think deep down, when you stop and look in the mirror, and like
Yeah.
something's off,
Yeah.
like something's not feeling right.
No, I think
There's
that's so
there's
true.
a. I think you have a path in life, and I think we get pulled in different directions at time. But I think whatever happens, life pulls you back,
Mhm.
and even if you don't want to face it, then it will come back.
Yeah.
And until you're ready to face it, it's going to keep popping up
Right. Because
in
I think
different ways.
right. We're also afraid of being unsure.
one Hundred
Like I
percent.
have friends who are engaged and they'll call me panicked and be like, but you never, doubted getting married or, and I love my husband more than life itself. But when you're about to make any change, whether it's getting married or like something huge, even
Yeah,
bigger, like you're going to have doubts. You're going
yeah,
to have, and I think like the more we get comfortable with like the uncertain and taking that first step and then seeing how we feel and taking that next step and seeing how we feel, I think we're just so, we think everything is permanent and everything is like, oh, okay, like once we announce this about ourselves, we can't change anymore.
one hundred
And I,
percent.
I think your book is such a incredible beacon of light in that way that shows that like just take the first step and
Yeah.
and the rest will follow.
Yeah, and fear is paralyzing. I've been plenty of
Yeah.
situations in my life and in my career that I feel like paralyzed by fear, and to the point where, like, I probably wouldn't even be working in Hollywood. I've had
Mhm.
certain situations like working with celebrities where I've gone to do something and fear is taking over because I'm like, they can see me, they can see I'm just this guy from England. They
Yeah.
don't see me as like the man I am. They see this little boy inside me, but really,
Right.
I'm just the little boy seeing myself in the mirror, like
Right.
that little kid that had a dream and felt a bit lost and just
Yeah.
wanted to make people look and feel good. And I'm like, these are these powerhouses. And I feel so like afraid, and the fear, I could feel it growing through me. It would start in my chest and go into like my arms and
Mhm.
then my legs. And I nearly let it freeze. But fortunately, I've been able to have these moments where, maybe I did it for my kids, but I remember having a moment where I heard Kate's voice, and it was when I just moved to America. And she said, if you don't make this work, you're going to have to come home. Like, and I
Mhm.
remember just kind of coming back into my adult self. And I was like, you know what, let's do this.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. And, I changed the look and we did something, and it worked really well. It was with, a big celebrity. And,
Mhm.
that was a very defining moment, because in that moment, if I'd have let fear taken over me, I wouldn't have done the look that I wanted to do. I would have just caved in, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't have a book. I wouldn't be in America, and I
Right.
definitely wouldn't be saying the things I'm saying. I think I would have been in a place where I was told to be. I would have
Yeah.
gone back to that box like
Yeah.
that people wanted to put me in, and I'd be really sad
No,
that I
100%.
didn't. And it can be in such small choices like that.
Yeah.
What you think is acceptable, like and that's why I don't like the word fine. It's like, I don't want to do fine.
Right.
I don't ever want to do fine.
Especially your version of fine or whoever you're thinking of,
Totally.
and of acceptable and yeah, I think
Fine
we
didn't get me to a better place.
right.
Being accountable got me to a better place.
Right.
Being, vulnerable, being insecure, and talking about it. And I think that's why I wrote the book. And what the reader will find in the book
Mhm.
is, yes, they know this version of me, where it looks great. There's a great photographer and great
Gorgeous.
lighting, but we're going
Yes.
to strip that all away,
Yeah.
and inside I'm naked. No,
Yeah.
we're going to strip
I
that all
wish. I
away, but
know.
really I am in a different sense.
Yeah.
I'm naked in a sense of like, this is who I am. This is
Yeah.
where I came from. This is some of the people that I work with that they know, and how, there's an interest in that and what it's like being behind the scenes in the entertainment industry. But
Mhm.
these are the mistakes I've made, the lessons I've learned, and this is how you get to, transform your life. And like I say, create your
Yes.
comeback and really come back to yourself in a powerful way at any age. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Personal.
Yeah.
Usually do this on dates,
Yeah.
but I'd love to know,
Yeah.
what's your toxic trait?
Oh my God. Okay. Oof. I can be pretty stubborn,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Um, I think that like changing my mind about something means that I've abandoned a version of myself.
Right.
when
So
in
you like to stay to that, yeah.
yeah, when in reality it's like, no, you've grown,
You've
you've opened
grown, you've
yourself
changed,
up
yeah.
to other opinions and things. Like I feel like I'm
Do you
so
catch yourself now though when you're doing it? Can you think, oh,
yes.
I'm doing that thing, and that doesn't always lead me to a better place? Like,
Right.
yeah,
Yes, 100%. And it comes up all day, every day, and everything. So I'm like, wait, am I being strong or am I being stubborn?
totally,
You
yeah,
know? And I
100%.
can't choose.
Yeah, I
You
love
know?
that.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I have a whole laundry list we could get into
Next
of
time.
toxic traits. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.